Hey everyone, TheGeordieGolfer here. Today's video is going to be about tech. I am Iron Man. This little device here is HackMotion. This is really cool. So I'll put some images up on the screen, but what it basically does, it measures the extension or cupping and also the flexion or bowing of your wrist. And I wasn't 100% sure how this would go for me, but what I do know is that ultimately your position at impact is very important. What I wanted to have was something that was going to help me measure that to then try and improve upon it. So let's get stuck in. So, HackMotion. This is very cool. This is the second time I've used this. This is literally just the first review of a new product that I've got. I've only used it once and I was very surprised at two things, I guess. First of all, the reason I got this was because I want to try and improve that impact position and try and have just like a bit more of a flatter wrist there because I've got a tendency to get slightly flippy maybe at times. So I want to have something that was measuring whether I was getting flippy or not. So that's the first thing. The second thing, which I didn't expect, was to find that at the top of my backswing that I've got sort of too much extension here. Now, as it happens, for those of you that follow the channel, you know that I've been doing speed training and you naturally try to get a longer swing. And for me to get a longer swing, if I have a bowed position there, ideally, it's more shoulder, which is what I want. But subconsciously, to get a longer swing, you move the club more, which to move the club more, I've got to then put my wrist into extension. And then as you can see, I can have that club parallel to the ground, let's say. But if I then put my wrist bowed, it's now up there. So I think that might be a product of that. But on the other hand, I do actually think that I've always had a little bit of extension at the top. But this is so cool because if I hit this like as a natural swing, so for me, that was what I would normally do. Hit it 115. Wow, do it. Wow, what about that? Anyway, that was a normal swing, 115 yards, bang on the number. However, look at the numbers that I've got here. So at address, I've got 20 degrees of extension. At the top, it goes to plus 38, which if you look at that screen there, that looks to be a huge amount. However, the good thing is, and this is what I have found while I've been doing this, the good thing is that my impact position is generally pretty good. So there is a question here as to, well, do I just keep training the impact and kind of ignore the top position? But on the other hand, per what I was saying before, I don't want to kind of like hoodwink myself that I'm getting a nice full backswing if in reality all I'm doing is moving the club but not my body. So I am going to try and pursue this a little bit to see if I can get a really good top position. Now, to give you an example of what I was doing in the last session I had, what it feels like is that you'll hear people talk about knuckles down. So that's like really your left hand coming in, knuckles down. And then you can see again that that's like inflection of like minus 20. So I wouldn't be able to hit a shot like that because it would just come out far too low and it'd probably hurt my wrists. But what I want to try and do is on the backswing is almost have, if you have less wrist hinge this way, then it's easier to keep your wrist in a bowed position. When I say a bowed position, I'm not looking for Dustin Johnson here, I'm just looking for less extension. So when I'm trying this to get that position right, I'm kind of thinking of less hinge and to try and keep the club in front of me first of all, but also to have that slight bow feeling, which actually naturally makes me tuck this right arm in as well, which is interesting. So in doing what is encouraged, you naturally have an extra few indirect benefits that you maybe subconsciously don't know you're getting, which I think is really cool because it's a little bit finding the root cause of your swing. You find that, and then naturally the other things that were compensating for that disappear. So let's see how this goes. So anyway, this will be, let's say, a new swing. And let's see how we can get that position at the top. So struck that pretty good. And in range at the top. And impact position's good. Pushed it slightly, which is interesting. Because what I will say is that when you're focusing on keeping that left wrist bowed, you've got to rotate. Otherwise, if you don't rotate, you know, if that was the ball I was hitting here, just for the camera, if you bow that wrist here, and if I don't rotate and just turn, it's going to come in. You can't really see there with massive shaft lean, but it's also shut. Whereas if I do that, but turn the body, the same shaft lean even, I can get that club face open by more rotation. So it's doing all the things that I want to do in a golf swing that I'm working on to try and get better impact position and better rotation. So obviously what I've mainly been showing you is how the interface will work with me as the golfer as opposed to looking at the data. Now I will dive into data in more detail once I've actually gotten used to the software, because I don't have a lot of experience or knowledge of the system yet. I'm not the right person to go through all the data, but what I'd like to just quickly show you on the iPad here, just to show you what information it comes with. So you've actually got the practice session, which is what I was just doing. You've got these learning and support functions, which I haven't got into yet, but I do know in the learning I had a look, and on there you've got videos just to help you with basic coaching videos essentially, but also to help you understand how to use the software. But if I just quickly show you in data, I'll just go to a session that was the first one I referred to. So if I go into here, what you can see in this session, and there's just a ton of information here scrolling across, and all this is different positions. You've got your address position, and that's where you can see a slight variation I mentioned before. You've got your positions at the top, so obviously all these pluses are suggesting that it's obviously slightly cupped. And then also then you've got your impacts, which generally speaking are kind of all in the green. In addition to that, you've got a shot list. So what's interesting on the shot list here is that what you can see is that when I first started using this, when I had a go of it the other day, you can see, for example, on the screen there that I've got the first sort of 10 shots are shown. And impact, like I said earlier, the impact was always quite good, which I was really chuffed about, which ironically, that was the main reason for buying it. But it's good to know these things. But again, at the top, you can see that I'm always a number of degrees out. And obviously you've got the figures in the on the left-hand side, you can see what I was at address, what I was at the top and what impact was. And then the ticks and the yellows are just basically confirm that the yellow means that you're slightly outside. If that was red, it will be a lot outside of the green zone, so to speak. And the ticks means everything's good. So I just quickly scroll, you can see one there randomly, that's a bad one. But if I go right at the bottom of this list now, and that there you can see my last 10 shots from that session. You can see all the impact ones with the exception of 2 were all good, so that's excellent. And in addition to that, on the top, I then managed to get all bar 4 with a tick. That for me was a massive effort, to be honest, which I was really surprised at. Interestingly, one thing which I will say is that I've always had a slight problem with my left wrist. I did damage it quite a few years ago, doing some work in the garden, believe it or not. And it's a little bit sore. It's not hurting, but there's an ache to it. So I'm a little bit nervous as to what that might mean in relation to, can I continue with kind of the things that we've been talking about today? Can I continue with that, or might it be too much? As a minimum, for sure, what I will definitely want to continue with is that kind of like that knuckles down, making sure that my impact position's right. Whether I can get that top position, first of all, whether I can get it right every time, I'm not sure. But more at the point, if I'm going to get pain, then that I've got to be careful. I think one of the points, just to give you an idea of as well, is if you scroll across and you find, for example, shot number 42, I'm just going to pick on, for example. So you can see on that one there, you've got the address position on the bar on the left-hand side, at the top position, which I'm still astounded at. When I look at my videos, if that's degrees, which I believe are 2 degrees, at the top of my backswing, it's nowhere near 30 degrees, or in this instance, 35. And then if I scroll across, you can then obviously see that at impact, -4. So that's bowing slightly. So that's good. And then obviously after that, it then obviously goes into extension as you completely follow through. So there's a ton of information and data depending on how much you want to geek out on this. For me, I love all of this. I'm not going to get totally embroiled into it, to be brutally honest. What I want to do is just what you saw me doing before. I think that's going to be the key thing for me. Using it more so for like the player interface rather than all of this drill down data. Got to be left that. I was in range at the top and a lot bowed at impact, which is obviously where that extra distance I would suspect come from, as well as the slightly left path. So we've got that going there. By the way, the green zones that it gives you are related to the address position. So if my address position changes slightly, it normally hovers between 15 and 20. It's quite difficult though, because like when I look down, I like to see my knuckles, but I've got the little device there, so I can't actually see my third knuckle, which is what I like to see. So I think that's why my address position is changing slightly. But yeah, so anyway, the point being though is that whatever your address position starts at, it then calculates the green zones based upon that. So if you have a weak grip, then obviously it would expect to have less extension at the top. If you have a very strong grip, then you have more extension at the top because you've started with a lot of extension. So everybody, first impressions, it is excellent. I am genuinely amazed at how knowing your wrist positions can facilitate improvements in other parts of your game. And what I'm hoping for with this isn't necessarily that extra yardage, because I just got that by deal off in the club, basically. But it's more about consistent wrist positions to get consistent impact and consistent shot shape. So for me, that's what I'm hoping to get out of this. I am absolutely convinced I'm going to. Let me know what you think. Do you want to see me using this more? Do you want to see more reviews of it once I actually know the product better? Do you fancy trying it? I must admit, I would recommend it. So anyway, guys, please drop some comments. Give me some thumbs up if this is what you want to see. And also, give that subscribe button a bit of a bash. Anyway, take care, guys.